Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. How many times have we said in the past that in life or in boxing, life experience, there's really no substitute for it? Well, there was a young heavyweight called Matty Harris today who came in at 5-0 to fight a guy called Kostiantyn Dovbyshchenko. This was over in Edinburgh on the Wasserman card. And Harris had 5 wins. He had 4 by knockout, all in the first round. And you may recognise Dovbyshchenko because he was the guy who took Moses Itauma the distance. And I think Itauma had a damaged hand in that fight and ended up outpointing Dovbyshchenko. Dovbyshchenko from Ukraine came in with 9 wins, 13 defeats and 1 draw, but had never been stopped. Very, very telling. And Matty Harris, 23 years old, towering above Dovbyshchenko, looking the part, very much the Adonis body, 23 years old, lots of swagger, walking to the ring, you know, doing his little dance, his little moves, his smooth moves. Well, he won't do many smooth moves at the end of this fight because Dovbyshchenko, a little barrel of a guy, only about 6'1" and weighs about 255, 260, something like that. In the first 2 rounds, it was all Harris, because Harris just very, very relaxed in there. And you were thinking, this guy really looks good, even though he's in against a journeyman. And Dovbyshchenko, a real tough guy. Itauma couldn't put a dent in him. And Harris did. In the second round, Harris floored him with I think it was a big right. He was an orthodox fighter, Harris. Dovbyshchenko orthodox as well. And Dovbyshchenko got up, and then in the third round there was a weird sort of change of pace, because suddenly, inexplicably, Harris began to look a little bit fatigued, and you're thinking, what's going on here? I mean, he's had everything his own way in the first 2 rounds. What's up? And Dovbyshchenko must have sensed this, because he started coming forward and swinging enormous hooks, I mean, real bullish guy. I mean, he's a little barrel of a fella, rolling forward. Lots of punches over the top, swinging overhand rights and lefts, banging to the body as well, threw a few to the body as well, Dovbyshchenko. And Harris, by the end of the third round, was looking fatigued. And in the fourth round, he really started to unravel, because it was more the same for Dovbyshchenko. And but by the end of the fourth, I mean, Harris was sagging, and he's lost his shape. The look on his face, the look in his eyes. He was like, "What's going on here? This isn't meant to be happening." And Dovbyshchenko just carried on doing what he's doing. Absolutely nothing scientific or slick about it. Just moved forward, throwing big punches when he got into range. Wasn't slipping and sliding. Was just walking forward. Maybe a little bit of head movement, which was kind of rhythmic. I mean, someone with a high ring IQ could definitely time him. But that second round knockdown didn't bother him at all. The third round he took, and the fourth round he definitely took. And between rounds, between the fourth and the fifth, Matty Harris looked in terrible condition. I mean, in terms of his body language, his facial expression, the look in his eyes, he was huffing and puffing. It was like he'd done 10 hard rounds. I was thinking, I don't know what's wrong with this kid. Does he not spar? Does he not do his drills properly? I don't know. He looked the part. He looked for perfect physical condition. Well, in the fifth round, he really unravelled badly, even more so. And Dovbyshchenko just chased after him, really putting the heat on him. Overhand rights, everything was landing. Harris showing absolutely no kind of defensive nous whatsoever. Dovbyshchenko banged at the body as well. And then with 1 second of the fifth round left, only 1 second left, Harris, absolutely exhausted, completely a spent force. The referee stepped in and stopped the fight in favour of Kostiantyn Dovbyshchenko, who moves to 10 wins, 13 defeats, no stoppage defeats, and the 1 draw. Harris slips to 5 wins with 4 KOs and 1 KO defeat. And if ever there was an example of why it's important to put people in with people who are going to take your rounds, like good quality journeymen who are going to take your rounds, who are going to, because it's not, you can, he won his debut on points over 4 rounds. The next 4 fights against absolute nobodies were all first round stoppages. And this young kid, I don't know whether he lacks maturity or what, but he came out into this fight, you know, grilling and girding and swaying and swinging and, you know, didn't even bother having his hands up for a lot of the time in the first 2 rounds. And he was, like I say, he floored Dovbyshchenko in the first round, but in the second round. But the moment he had it put it on him, the moment Dovbyshchenko started to land, the moment he wouldn't go away, the moment he was there throwing his own punches back, Harris totally unravelled mentally. Didn't know what to do, didn't know how to defend himself. Suddenly he wasn't having everything his own way. In other words, he had that flashy, tough, shiny exterior, but break through that and there was literally nothing underneath, nothing at all. Because he hasn't been brought along well. You don't learn anything from 4 consecutive 1-rounders. And this was a 6-rounder, by the way. This wasn't an 8-rounder or a 10-rounder. Harris only had to get through 1 more second and 1 more round. He'd have gone the distance. He'd have probably lost on points the way things were going. But he couldn't handle it. He just could not handle it. And his corner was shouting to him in the 4th round, you know, dig deep, dig deep. And they were trying to pep him up. And the kid just had a vacant look in his eyes. It wasn't vacant, actually. It was more like total concern. So a perfect example of why you can't just throw your youngsters in with these no-hopers, people who are just there to collect a paycheck and not go to rounds, and then expect him to come up against a real tough journeyman who's going to ask questions of you. And I mean, don't forget, I mean, Dovbyshchenko, I think, is in his 30s. I think he's 31. Tough guy from Ukraine, based in Camden Town, of all places. But he found Matty Harris out big time. Harris it was terrible to see, really. It was so obvious that this kid has not been brought on properly. Anyway, the fight back for Harris begins now. He's got to decide, what does he want to do? Does he want to be a fighter or not? Because you've got to swallow some humble pie now. Never mind all the slick moves and the grinning to the camera and all that crap. You know, get back in the gym, start learning your trade and learn it properly, and recognise that you have got to, as your corner put it, dig deep at all times, even when the cameras are not on you. It's best to do it when the cameras are not on you, because you can afford to fail then. You know, Marvin Hagler, when he was coming through, I remember reading, when he was learning something new, he'd be floored in sparring. Because to be good, you first of all got to be bad, and you go from being bad to good with practice. The ego has to be ignored. The ego has to be left at the door. You've got to get rid of that, you know, jitterbugging, I want to be, look at me, I'm so cool, I'm so slick. Get rid of all that rubbish and behave like a fighter. Do the right thing, even if the right thing is the painful thing. Even if the right thing is the thing you don't want to do, you got to do it. Just ask Kostiantyn Dovbyshchenko. I mean, he's come up the hard way. He'll get another few paychecks on the back of this, and good luck to him as well. But anyway, I don't know whether you saw this, but I just thought I'd mention it because it is a good example of how not to bring a fighter on, of how to poorly matchmake him. And it's up to Matty Harris now. He's 23, plenty of time to come back, but can he do it? We will see. Anyway, I don't know if you saw this fight. It was on the Wasserman card over in Edinburgh. Yeah, let me know if you saw it. Let me know what you think, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the subscribe button and the like button as well. It helps us out. And yeah, we'll speak again soon. Bye bye for now.